Hey, welcome, folks. Welcome to the Washington County Public Affairs Forum. I want to just offer an apology. I was going to have PowerPoint presentations on both sides, and we had some technology meltdowns. Unfortunately, Mark Freiberg is not here, and I'd like to blame him for no power at my house for the last 14 hours, which was really a challenge. And so I'd like to maybe suggest that we put Mark Freiberg as a speaker where we crucify him in the near future, because maybe not. We have a wonderful program today. Janeen Sollman from Beaverton School District, excuse me, Hillsboro, oh, I'm going to hate that. That's the problem with live television, is you can't undo that. She's a member of the Hillsboro School Board, and also Jenny Watson, who is with the Citizens for Hillsboro Schools, did I get that right? Are here presenting, and they're presenting on the Bond Committee, was it Technology and Bond Committee?
Technology and Safety.
Thanks for bailing me out. I feel so unprepared. And so I want to thank them both for being here, and just briefly mention that next week we've got Secretary of State Kate Brown coming, and I think that's going to be an excellent program. With that, I'd like to ask for some applause for Janeen.
Thank you so much for having us here today to talk about our Hillsboro Technology and Safety Bond that will be coming on the November 5th ballot. It's Measure 34206, and we have been talking in the community. We're just really having conversations with parents and community members and business leaders to really talk about the importance of this bond for our district. It is a $25 million general obligation bond. And you can follow along. We have some information up here as well. This is a technology and safety bond. It will bring $17 million in technology for our district. This can be used as equipment, it's infrastructure. This will come across for all of our schools across the district. And as well as the $8 million in safety and facilities upgrades that are needed. Our students are at risk for falling behind. It's a pretty sad story when students have better technology in their homes than they do in their schools, because our task is to make sure that they are career and college ready, and we need to make sure that we provide them the tools necessary to give them the training and skills that they so need. This bond raises local money for our community. It stays within our community. And so folks have asked, why now? Why here? And I can let you know that over the past 6 years that our district has cut over $70 million from our budget. And that creates some pretty significant deficits in our budget that we need to make sure that we help our students again be college and career ready. So we've had to cut days, and we've had to such as our technology, the cuts that we've had in our technology. 60% of our inventory is past its age. It's inadequate. I can give you an example, 2 examples. We did a timed test where we turned the computer on to see how long it would take to boot, reboot. And as you can see, it's just over 11 minutes. That's unutilized time in a classroom when you have technology there for our students. Our teachers are ready. They're ready to teach. They're ready to engage their students, and we're waiting on technology to catch up with the moment. That's not good in our classrooms. Another example is with my own son in a digital photography class in high school. Teacher sent me a picture where he was just kind of laying across the table, bored, not sure what's going on. I was mortified as a parent to get that picture, going, oh my goodness, what is happening here? And then I got the explanation from my son, which was confirmed by his teacher, that this was what happens when he loads his projects into the computer. It spins and spins and spins, and it becomes a game of roulette, whether it's going to actually fall into the computer and do what it needs to do with his project, or it's going to crash, and he's going to have to go through the whole process again. Once again, that is unutilized time in our classrooms that we need to be helping our students and preparing them. The board has been extremely mindful of this recession and has waited a long time to go to the community for help. did a professional survey through Davis Hibbets, and the survey came back as a 59% approval rate to have a targeted, invested plan for technology, facilities, and maintenance. 59% approval rate. We were very excited about that, and we decided to move forward. Some folks, just to give you a little background, because not everyone is well versed on what's happening in Hillsboro, just to let you know that we've cut 18 days from our students' schedule. Oregon has one of the shortest school days in the nation. So that's nearly a month's time that we're also reducing from their education needs. I kind of touched a little bit on the fact that 60% of our computers and our technology is out of date, non-working, and inadequate. Well, because of the budget cuts, we've had to slow down the replacement cycle of those computers. We've reduced our administration, we've reduced our maintenance budget, and we've reduced educational programs and electives. Some of the things that we have in place with our district that does is a cost savings manner that not a lot of districts have, is we have a PERS savings. Our employees pay the 6% of the employee contribution. Some districts do not have that. And that was an agreement made with our teachers in our schools. And the other savings, considerable savings that we have in our district is the incredible partnerships that we have with the Hillsboro Chamber of Commerce, with the City of Hillsboro, with the Parks and Recs Department, and the programs that they offer for our students to keep them engaged in learning activities and after-school activities. Some folks want to know just exactly what will you do with the bond. Well, some of the things that we have, as I mentioned in the survey that we did a targeted survey and really looked at supplying the technology, safety enhancements, and facility maintenance. And this is where this money works very well with our strategic plan, which is our guiding light of our district, and we want to make sure that we invest in those areas. To give you a little bit of background, I kind of touched on this a little bit, so I won't take too much time, but I want to mention on this instructional technology background that staff and students don't have the tools necessary for instruction, for learning, grading, and assessments. And one part of that I wanted to add was the parent communication. When you have that three-legged stool, when you have your staff and you have your parents and you have your students all working together for the success of your students, it's a great model. It's really efficient and works well for our students. When our staff has issues being able to communicate about the education of their own children, that becomes a little hindrance to the process. And so we want to make sure that we have technology in place because our staff has very large has a lot of population of students to take care of. We want to make sure that their time we're able to help them be efficient and be able to utilize technology quicker for them because of their busy schedule and their long days. We want to talk about specifically on the instructional technology investment. I mentioned that $17 million of this bond will be invested in technology. We have a technology study team that's completed a very in-depth analysis of our current technology and best practices, and they have a plan, targeted, very strategic plan in place called the Tech Enhanced Classroom Plan, and it's a 5-year plan. So this isn't something saying we see the need, we need to do this, help us out, and we'll see what we do with it. The plan is in place. We know what we're going to do with the bond money when it comes to us. Enhance student learning by investing in computers, laptops, tablets, wireless infrastructure, and other instructional technology, and all schools will benefit. The importance of we know that students are wired differently. They're certainly wired differently than when I went to school, and their minds. And they have that capability of technology, some of them even in their own hands. So we need to make sure that when they come to the classroom and they're needing to work on these reports and work on the things that they need to do for their classrooms, they can use their own technology. Then we can help those that don't have that ability in a classroom with supplying them with the tools necessary. The safety background, just to give you some information that the Federal Safe Schools and Healthy Students grant in 2005 allowed us to make huge progress on establishing safety protocols, which, mind you, is a fabulous, well-known process with HPD, Washington County, and all the law enforcement and first responders in this area. We have a very good plan for our district, and we're excited about the work being done there. Also, installing tactical mapping databases at each district facility. That sounds like, whoa, what is that? That's because we want to make sure that in the event of any type of emergency, we know exactly what's happening, what the plan is in place, and it's very easily accessible for those that need it. And there's not a lot of missed time in taking care of things. And we have created a care coordinator model in our schools. These students, again, we want to talk about when I was in school versus when these kids are in school. These kids are dealing with a lot of things in their life and things that are happening, different things that are in place that are barriers and obstacles for them being educated. And we have care coordinators in place that were provided by the grant that help our students be connected with their staff. It brings in that connection, that three-legged stool that I talked about, making sure that our staff and our parents and our students are all working together. And that care coordinator is there to make sure that those students succeed. And it is a very well implemented program that other districts look at. Since the grant ended, we haven't been able to make infrastructure investments. So there's things that we talk about, such as part of this bond is going to be the $4 million investment for safety. And so those can be things like security cameras, line of sight improvements, where your office is not in the line of sight of the doors where people are coming in and out. We need to make those improvements. Interior classroom locks where needed. Some of our older schools actually have doors where the staff members have to go outside the door, lock it, and then go back inside. In a situation where an emergency situation takes place, that's not time that we need to be doing. It needs to be an automatic lockdown situation for our students to keep our staff and students safe. We talked about a card key access system for our staff members to be able to readily go in and out of buildings when they needed throughout the day, and a radio system as well. I want to go back a little bit to the security cameras at all schools. So one example of this, some say, well, what is the benefit there? I mean, you can kind of guess that there would be a safety benefit, so we know what's happening in the hallways of our classroom. But what some folks don't realize is the education part, the part that this affects the education of our students and our student achievement. Because when there is an incident in our hallways, in the absence of a camera, we have staff members, we have principals that are all coming into place to try to figure out what happened in this situation. It could take days to happen. And so that's time that's being taken out of our classroom. Our principals, who are placed in the building to be instructional leaders of our teachers, they're having to be out of the classrooms and supporting their teachers to figure out what's going on in the hallways. When we have cameras, it can be a 5-minute deal, and we can get that figured out and move back into making sure what we are doing best, which is making sure those kids are career and college ready. The other part of the bond is the facility maintenance background. Our facilities department has identified $15 million in high priority facility maintenance projects. We have a consistent rolling top 10 priority list in our district of things that need to be repaired and fixed and things. And our priorities determined by safety, fire, life safety, roofing needs, seismic upgrades, facilities access control, and regulatory requirements. to give you an example, and we talk about that, it's important that we note that even in our own homes, when we have a repair that needs to be done on our roof, it's better to take care of that immediately when it's done, when it happens, rather than wait 5-10 years, because what's going to happen to your roof and your home? It becomes more of an expensive problem and harder to fix. And being good stewards of the money that we are given from the state of Oregon and from taxpayers, we want to make sure that we're keeping an upkeep on our buildings so that it becomes very cost-effective and efficient, and making sure that we keep our buildings in tip-top shape for safety. There is a $4 million investment for part of the bond for facility maintenance. And it's specifically going to be really looked at for our roof repairs and our seismic upgrades. A lot of times, those are both very big safety issues, but a lot of times when you're already working on the roof and doing the repairs, if you're doing the seismic upgrades at the same time, it becomes a cost-effective model and way of doing repairs. And as I mentioned about the protect and maintain our original capital investments, fix now and prevent paying more later. That's what we need to make sure that we keep an eye on. Some folks had asked, why a bond and not a levy? Well, there are several reasons that we looked at. As a board, we discussed this at great length. And some of the things that came to mind was the collection amount varies from year to year on a levy. So due to compression rates, you can be year to year, your rates, the amount that you collect can go down. And so you've counted on this budgeted amount in your school budget, and now all of a sudden you're collecting $3 million less. You've just made another hole for yourself to fill. So it's really important that a levy is year to year and can fluctuate in the amounts, whereas a bond, you can receive all the funds up front, and it is every property taxpayer pays this. It isn't like a levy, which is based on compression rates. So you may be paying something and your neighbor pays nothing. You have no way of knowing that, but that's what happens. And so a lot of times levies can be a little bit more expensive because of that, compression rates and how that's figured, that formula. But so a bond is less. It's going to be 42 cents per thousand that we're looking at, which and we talked about the stability, and bonds are a one-time voter ask. Levies can be renewable. So we are asking for a 5-year bond for the district. The bond raises, how does this work? Well, the bond raises $25 million, and I had mentioned that the rate is 42 cents per thousand. An average property tax owner is about $200,000 home. That's $7 a month, $84 a year. It's a very reasonable ask for the investment that we are looking at for our district, for our students, for now and for their future. There is a tax calculator that you can go to on the website. There's some information under our budget matters. There's some bond information. You can put in your property tax value, and it can help you figure out the cost to you as a property tax owner. Want to mention some of our supporters. We had some folks come right out of the gate when we talked about this that said, we're on board. We want to support this. Intel was one of the first, PGE, Tuality Hospital, Nike, Hillsboro Chamber of Commerce, Cornelius City Councilor and their mayor, the Hillsboro City Council and their mayor, as well as the North Plains City Council. We had elected officials. We had Senator Bruce Starr that came out in support of this, endorsed this, Congresswoman Suzanne Bonamici, and then we had Representatives Jeff Barker, John Davis, Joe Gallegos, and Ben Unger. There's many more representative and elected officials because our district is cut up into lots and lots of pieces. So our representatives are understanding the need, and they see that this is a very good, solid plan for our district and the investment. And you know, happy school children, happy families equals happy community, because people are working and people are thriving within their city. We also have the endorsement of the Hillsboro Education Association. That's your teachers. They know that they want to have this in their classroom, that they know that they want to make sure that they're doing the best that they can, and if we're able to supply them equipment needed to help them enhance the learning opportunities, then they appreciate that, as well as the safety and facilities upgrades that are needed. We do have, our committee is made up of current school board members, past school board members. We have parents. We have just community members that are all coming together working on the Citizens for Hillsboro Schools bond campaign. We have a website that is up in place, yesforhillsboroschools.org. We have, as I mentioned, there's some bond information on the budget matters of the district website. We have a Facebook. It's Yes for Hillsboro Schools. One of the exciting things when we first came on about that Facebook and looked at the traffic that was coming in, social media is crazy. We had 3,993 hits in 1 week. People going on there, seeing what this bond is all about. We're on the phones talking to folks. We've been making our phone calls, talking to parents, talking to community members, letting them know that this is going to be on the November 5th ballot. Because frankly, there's not a lot of things happening on this ballot in the fall. And the concern is that people won't open that ballot up and make the vote that's needed. So we really want to make sure that we're educating folks and letting them know that their ballots are due November 5th, and we hope that they can support this for our students in our district for now and for their future. And I just want to thank you so much by having us here today, and I want to open it up for any questions that that anyone may have. I will do my best to answer that question. Mm-hmm.
How do you communicate?
Oh.
How about you do your question first?
Oh, okay.
Emily Knapp, I'm
Oh.
a forum member and
I'm not
a
sure it's
Hillsboro
on.
resident, one of the few, and this isn't on.
I don't think it's on.
Joseph?
Now it's on.
There you go.
Hey, turning it on works. I'm Emily Knapp and a Hillsboro resident. My question is, do we have to pass a bond like this by a particular amount of a majority, or is a simple majority sufficient? I know in Washington it has to be 65% or something that screws them over all the time.
It's a great question. Yes, this is a simple majority. So we just need to make sure we get folks to turn out and make sure that they vote. Oregon couldn't make it more easier on folks, right? So we just want to make sure that we educate folks and let people know that this is on the ballot and how important it is to make sure they circle in that yes for Measure 34206.
Sally Bonnell, forum member. How do you communicate with English language learners' families and with the homeless families?
It's fantastic. Very good question. It's really important that when we communicate with all of our district patrons, we have students. We have a very diverse culture within our district. The one flyer that has been going door to door, and we've been letting folks know, we've been handling through the parent groups. The one side is in English and the other side is in Spanish. We even have Spanish-speaking committee members that are helping, making sure that we're able to get in and speak to folks at their meetings to be able to educate them on what's happening with this bond and the importance of it. And as I mentioned, not only is our district a diverse district, but our committee is as well. And so we're committed to making sure that all voters have this information and know everything that they need to know to circle in that yes. Okay, thank you.
Captain Wheeler, farm member, I got a two-part question. One, I didn't understand how much you're really of this bond is going to, or technology.
Okay. Do you want me to answer that? Okay,
Yeah.
17 million. So 17 million is technology. It's equipment and infrastructure needs that we have across our district that will affect all schools across our district, as well as safety and facilities are 4 million each. On the district website, there is a one-page 5-year plan that shows the dollar amounts that will be spent each year. And then we also will have a bond advisory committee. That is something that the 2006 model was extremely important, and it was extremely effective to know that we have community members brought in to make sure that the process is followed, to make sure that budgets are met and timelines are met. And so we had a really successful group of folks that were put together a great model for that in 2006, and we're looking forward to that for this bond as well.
My other question is, with information doubling every 2 and a half years, if you're buying technology today, it could be obsolete in 2 years. And and you talked earlier about the problem of you got old technology, 11 minutes to boot up and that. How are you going to protect yourself against technology obsolescence?
Again, this is great. I appreciate these questions. One of the things we want to do is make sure that the plan that we have in place for technology is not an all-in-one year. We want to make sure that we have a rolling model so that we can make sure that we don't have an issue where all of the computers are a certain age. We want to make sure that we have that stretched out so to protect ourselves there. One of the craziest things that I find that frustrating is that you have to pay for air. You have to pay for bandwidth, and you have to pay for wireless communication. And it just is so frustrating that so much of the money has to be invested in making sure that you have the infrastructure in place to be able to operate that equipment. And it can be anywhere from laptops to tablets and other devices. But there is a plan that we need to make sure that we follow in that 5-year, and we want to make sure that we don't have the issue where we have such a large group of our equipment aging out at the same time. Because you're absolutely right. What is today is not going to be of next year. There's going to be a new model, so we want to make sure. Is there something else?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, the technology plan is a guideline. It's not etched in stone, and the technology team will take into consideration new developments over the course of the next few years. You're right, things change so rapidly. A few years ago, our elementary PTO fundraised for smart boards, which are very expensive projection systems that have a projector and a screen and a computer, and it's a very expensive setup. Nowadays, they have these little things called Mimios, which turn a regular Best Buy whiteboard into a computer screen that the teacher can then use a stylus. This little strip attaches to the whiteboard, and then the teacher can use a stylus to access websites, PowerPoints, graphs, and just the kids are so engaged when that media is moving in front of them, and it just really makes a big difference. And so yes, we intend to go with the flow and make sure that we're using the best possible technology as it becomes available.
That was a wonderful addition, and it reminded me too that the technology committee that we have that's put together, the technology enhancement team, is not just administrators and folks that are working at the district. These are community members, parents. They probably do have student, and they have board members that are on this committee working together. So, thank you.
I'm Bill Kroger. I'm a forum member. Thanks for coming in today and filling in. You were talking about the problems in our schools, that we're down the list as far as things go nationally. I know that our parent to student ratio is really low. The graduation rates are down. They're not up where they should be. So there's a lot of problems. And in school districts, not just Hillsboro, but Beaverton, everybody has to come back for more money, more money. my question is you talk to your superintendent and you're in the circle with other educators. What's the long-term fix to this? I mean, we keep doing this over and over and over, and I'm just thinking, is there some kind of a solution that we could maybe as a state come together and try to solve this problem so we don't have to keep repeating this over and over?
Right. Thank you. That's a big question. One of the things that we frustratingly have to work on is what we have at local control. A lot of our state fund and our state budget that we receive is not within our own hands, but we have excellent communication with our elected officials in the area, and we talk to them. And I've probably seen more of that in the last 2 years with all of our our senators, our representatives, Congresswoman, Bonamici even, and just coming together and hearing what's happening in Hillsboro and what our needs are. We even had discussions at the local library with Governor Kitzhaber came as well to make sure that he not only sees the state picture on that, but he sees the local picture as well and what's happening in Hillsboro. Our education is a changing model. It is. We do have larger class sizes. That's an Oregon issue. Oregon has some of the largest class sizes in the nation. One of the things that we find difficult is as a board, we talk about this all the time because it is part of the puzzle. It's part of the piece that we want to make sure that students are engaged. We want to make sure that staff is supported. But the financial part of that is always in our minds. We have I believe I'm quoting this correctly, $1.7 million within our district to reduce a class size by 1. So that's a significant amount of money that we have to invest for class sizes. But one of the things I like to talk about with parents is making sure that they know that that they know that class size, that money can come out of our general budget. And so when we have money that's coming out of our general budget for computer replacement, roof repairs, and other things that are taking the money out of that general budget fund, we won't be able to address the issue of class size as readily and quickly as we would like to because we have these other needs within our district. And so we have our strategic plan in place, and we constantly and consistently look as a school board at our graduation rates and what's happening in our classrooms, and that is a focus for us. We have to make sure that we focus on that. With the changing Common Core standards and things that are happening within our state, we're making sure that we are doing the best that we can to close the achievement gap. And so we try to put the resources where we can. And one of the things why we have such a need for our resources in technology is that our local businesses are saying, gosh, we'd like to hire people from Hillsboro, but they're not ready for our career tech, world. And so we need to make sure that we're training them in that as we address all those other issues as well. Studies show that when technology enhanced classrooms are in place, student achievement is a less of an issue, and our graduation rates will increase. So studies do show that. So that's what we're. Did I answer that okay? Did I? Okay.
Like you said, it's a tough question.
Yeah.
Harry Boudin, forum member. I think you may have answered this question, but most bond issues run 20, 25 years, but is this a 5-year bond? Will be paid off in 5 years.
It
is that correct?
Yes.
So basically, the technology you're buying, which will also expire in 5 years, you're not going to be paying for this 20 years down the line. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Do I get a second question?
Well, can I answer that a little bit?
You bet.
So it is a 5-year bond. There is a plan in place for spending for the 5 years. As we mentioned, we want to make sure that we're making the purchases that are efficient and for the best bang for the buck, so to speak, to make sure that we can do upgrades and we can make sure that that equipment is up to date. The equipment isn't going to be failing in 5 years. We've had our equipment, some of this is very, very old. So Yeah. Yeah, dinosaurs. So we really have a plan in place to make sure that that's an efficient model, so we're not running into an issue. But we have those upgrades also part of the bond, which are they the door locks, the safety cameras, and things like that will be in our classrooms helping as well.
Second shot. Gain share. The county
Yes.
distributed money to the school district's gain share funds. How much is Hillsboro getting, and how are you spending that money?
Great question. Puts me on the spot a little bit. First of all, it was a partnership between the county and the city that came together and supported the district. And I'm going to be in the ballpark, but I want to say $1.4 million for 2 years. And how we invested that was with our missing days that we've had to cut. We had 5 days that we were potentially going to cut from the calendar this year, and with that in investment in our schools, we have now 2 days that we're cutting. So we have 3 days that we were able to add back to the calendar for our students. Thank you.
Chris Leslie, foreign member. Again, it's been noted that a number of school bonds have ended up being paid for teachers, and when the housing bubble burst, there was not enough taxes to pay these bonds in a number of states, at least 25 states throughout the nation. And this is sort of an end of the bull market now. How can you address this and taxes when we might even have another housing bubble?
Right. I appreciate the question. I want to say I'm not well versed on what's happening outside the state of Oregon, even more so outside of our Hillsboro area with that question. We do know that we are held to the very highest standards of the Secretary of State, and that our the rules. Bond funds cannot be used to pay for people. Bonds are the things that you fill your buildings. It's building construction bonds. So in 2006, we had a construction bond, and that could only be used to build schools and equipment needed for those schools. So levies are more for staffing. That's what you see. So bonds are for building and infrastructure, and levies are for staff. And so we are to the law. We are not allowed to use those funds. But that's also a good question to know, because about that bond oversight committee, because when they have that committee, those folks are looking over all of the purchases and all of the plans to make sure that the bonds are being used for what is intended and to the on time, under budget, all those things, making sure that it's the best use of the dollars.
The timing of the economy, though, that is important.
It is. It is, and we struggled with this. We have struggled and had this conversation as a board for several years. I've been on the board since 2009, and
Do you have any business people or educational people?
For what do you mean
College,
on our board?
Economic projections.
On our board? Well, I know.
Yes.
Well, we the folks that make up our board, we have
a
Intel
business
engineers.
plan, don't you?
Yes. Right. So we have I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the question was.
You have a projection of the economy.
We do the
Don't
best
you
that.
have anything like that?
Well, we do the best that we can. Adam Stewart is our CFO. He's our Chief Financial Officer, and you can actually go to our website and find some information on that. We do have a long-range planning committee that not only looks at the growth in our area, so we're able to make sure that we have land available for projected growth, so that we're not coming back and having to purchase land. That's one of the absolute positives within Hillsboro that we have, is land banks and land masses for the growth that's coming. South Cooper Mountain, South Hillsboro area is going to be having a significant increase in population, and we've planned for that. So do you want to interject? Yeah.
And so Mike Scott, our superintendent, has made it clear to parents, teachers, everyone in the district that he's not counting on, a big magic economy that comes around like it was 10 years ago, and then all of a sudden all of our problems are solved. They are planning for the new reality of what schools are likely to face. They're very practical and conservative, and they will, the reports last year were daunting, and it's not easy to tell parents that this is the reality for a while. But they made those hard choices, and the board supports them, and they have put together a very detailed, conservative projection for the next 5 years. So, and all that information can be available. And yes, and on the board, yes, we do have we have an accountant, we have business people, we have conservatives, we have liberals, we have everybody, right? Yes.
It's a
Yeah.
great mix. We have our budget meetings in the district that are open to the public, and they are throughout the year, and you'll see that. It was a little disconcerting that when we adopted our budget, we had no folks from the community in the audience. And there was nobody there to watch the process, question the process, have a conversation when that time was there to have that conversation. So our doors are open. We have an open and transparent process that other districts actually look at, the budget process. So we welcome folks to please take a look at that information on our district website and come to the meetings. We need you at the table.
Hi, I'm Marilyn McWilliams, I'm a forum member. And my question is, I know a lot of businesses, when they're looking at an area to move in, the workforce is a big consideration. Have you had much support from the local businesses in funding the schools, offering volunteer help, providing in-kind donations?
Absolutely. Folks it's a great question because, again, that's part of that engagement, that making sure that our students are career and college ready. We know that an important piece of that is our businesses, because we want them to not only grow up and be able to work into those businesses, but their families work for those businesses. Again, it's all part of that vibrant Hillsboro puzzle that we want to make sure that we keep alive. And we have huge partners within our district. I mentioned a few of them, the city of Hillsboro, even through their park and rec, our law enforcement agencies. We have a class, I'll just give you an example because we have a lot of classes, but we have a class at Liberty High School that is our fire science class. Students can receive, if they want to be in the fire industry, they want to be a fireman, fire personnel, they come to that. They can come to Liberty from any school across our district, take the class. It's taught by fire personnel, and they can receive college credit for that. And so they're attending school in our public schools and attending and getting college credit to provide that foundation for learning when they continue on with their education. And we have those kind of partnerships across our district. It's incredibly exciting to see the opportunities that we have. Hillsboro Chamber of Commerce was one of the first organizations that jumped on board that said, we know what this is going to do for our district, and we want to be part of this and support it and endorse it, because we want these kids to grow up, work here, live here. It's all part of which was 2020 plan, but now this is 2035 plan that they're working on. And so incredible partnerships throughout our district. Thank you.
John McWilliams, forum member. First of all, thank you very much for your service on the board. As a new resident of the Hillsboro, I'm very pleased that you're there to represent us. Thank you very much for that. Also, we're talking about technology, and so most time we talk about technology, I think we talk about the electronics of what's going on, and we talked about the new boards that they can put up for teaching on, things of that nature. Also, I believe that our Labor Commissioner, Brad Abakian, is working very hard with the legislature to find money to put into schools for their shop classes.
Yep. Career and technical education.
Is this technology, is there some of that money also going to go for supporting shop classes for people who are really, that's what they like to do. They like to work with their hands and do things like that.
Yeah,
So
bless you.
are we working on something like that?
It's great. We actually have a group that's together that is the Career and College Pathways Committee that is working throughout our district. We have not only city folks invited and at that table participating, we have industry, we have Intel there, we have the Hillsboro Chamber of Commerce, Portland State University, PCC, and making sure that, again, when we talked about those dual credits, that we're giving kids that foundation to continue on with their education while they're still in the public school arena. So that's really important. And making sure that we have a teacher that works very, very hard on the career and technical education piece, Don Domes at our Hill High, and he works very well to make sure that those programs prosper, because we know that when you bring in interest of these students, it only keeps them engaged in all the rest of their school experience. So career and technical education is absolutely on our radar. We are working together to create a very exciting plan that is hopefully going to come out and really show the partnerships that we have in our district. Thank you.
You're talking a lot about technology. Technology in the workforce is changing the workforce. I mean, a lot of jobs are going by the wayside, but efficiencies are increasing. At the college level, you can get a degree online now, and they have interactive things via computers with the teachers and students. I'm not so sure that would work in high school or lower grades, but I was just curious with the technology, what changes are coming about, and maybe I'm sure you guys talk about this in the future, that technology can enhance and help in education.
Yes. So part of that committee is called, I apologize, let me see, but it is actually called the Tech Enhanced Classroom Committee that's really working together. So absolutely, we know what can happen. As I mentioned, studies show that when you have a tech enhanced classroom, your student achievement is improving, your graduation rates improve. You mentioned online education. We're proud that at Hillsboro we have our own online academy that we're able to offer our students. Last year was our first graduation. I want to say we had 13 students that crossed that graduation finish line, and they received their degree online. Not only can students solely go to the online academy, and we have teacher supports for that as well, that they can go to a location, but also they may want to just take a class that is being offered through the online that maybe they cannot get into in our own schools. So those kind of conversations are happening. We've even started to offer those online academy classes to our elementary age students now as well. Because as I mentioned, we know that our students are completely wired differently than we are. And we want to make sure that we get them and grab them at the level that they're ready to learn and that they need to keep them engaged. Because that career and college goal is what we need to do, so we have to get at them any way we can. Thank you.
Lee Coleman, forum member. On the subject of general educational policy, is the school district doing anything about truancy? We call that dropout these days, but as I understand it, people under the age of, I think, 18 are required by law to go to school. Well, I guess one thing is, do you have room in the revenues and the budget, whether it's from the bond issue or general revenues,
To address that.
to go out, arrest those kids, bring them to school, make them stay there, and teach them something?
Mm-hmm. Okay, it's an excellent question. We would rather engage them than arrest them. So let me just tell you, I touched a little bit and talked about the care coordinators that were supplied by the federal Healthy Schools, Safe Schools grant. We have maintained those care coordinators throughout our district, and so they are in place to make sure that the connections are being made with the families and the schools and the staff to make sure that our students get into school and are engaged in the education experience. I'll give you an example. Our administrators are even out working. Our teachers do all that they can to communicate with parents and to let them know about what's happening with their students. My son, I'm going to give you two examples. My son missed a fourth period class. My husband got an email, I got an email, and there was a voicemail. And then it turned out he was in cross country. It was legitimate. So, but those are the ways that we're letting people know, look, at what reason you need to know your student was gone. So we're making sure that we get parents where we can. And also we have a principal, an elementary principal. I remember when he first came on to a school, he wanted to address that tardiness issue. He was like, 8 o'clock, they should be in their seats. Why is it that I walk in from guiding parents into their, in the turnaround outside, and I walk in and there's a whole line of kids standing at the door already tardy. That's not a great way to start your day. So he started an 8 is late campaign. And so he started not only, talking with these children, but knocking on their doors in the morning or in the afternoon or in the evening to talk to the parents and say, hey, what are the hurdles in place that are preventing Johnny from being in the classroom? Because I want to make sure that in my power, if I can help make that happen, get rid of that hurdle, and Johnny can be there, we want to make sure it happens. It's been known that he's purchased even alarm clocks for him. But this is a partnership.
He used to call on his way,
Yeah.
the kids on the way in.
Yeah.
But now he can't do that. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's against the law.
Yeah, because you can't, hands-free. So, but they do. It's making sure that we get those kids there to engage them. We want to get rid of, there's all sorts of reasons why kids are struggling in our schools, and some are out of our control. But whatever we can do to bridge that gap and help them and get them the services they need and get them ready to be in their chairs with food in their belly and ready to learn, then that's what we want to do, because that's what our focus needs to be, career and college readiness.
Janeen, Ginny, I'd like to first thank you both for cogent and thoughtful responses to the forum members' questions. I'm Eric Squires, forum member. My question is premised in this brief experience. As a restaurant owner, I handed a calculator and a cost sheet to an employee, and I requested that they, as a product of the Beaverton School District, respond to me with an answer to this question. What is the percentage of food to sales that was generated in my restaurant? The response was 136%, and that's not sustainable. Didn't mean for that to be funny, but thank you for the courtesy laughs. And that the end result was that employee no longer did what they did, and I lost some money. My concern is this. Now, my general impression is that the technology aspect of this is something I definitely want to fund, because that is the trajectory. The core concern that I share, and the heart of my question is this, is that what are you doing for Hillsboro School District to shepherd in this bond so that we do not lose sight of the core competencies, such as reading, writing, and arithmetic, that allows people to functionally operate the technology? Ergo, my example.
Right.
I put a basic calculator in the hands of an employee, and I got nonsense because the fundamentals were missed. And my concern, again, rephrased, is that if we spend a whole bunch of money to get these kids college ready, have we really met the core competencies that are required to operate the technology?
Excellent. I want to talk about a few things that came to mind when you talk about, is there a plan in place and what do we have ready? I mentioned about the strategic plan. That is our guiding lights of our district to make sure that we are focusing in the areas that we see as areas that we need to make sure that we are improving on. Our superintendent goals, actually our board goals then fall from the strategic plan, and our superintendent goals all intertwine to make sure that we stay on track. We do quarterly updates and whatnot to make sure that we are on track for achieving the goals of our strategic plan and what we have put in place for us in the year. The thing that I'm hoping I'm answering this correctly, because you're absolutely correct. It's always a thing where you talk about making sure that, gosh, we need to study on making sure that we are improving on literacy. So let's read. Well, then what happens to math? What happens to science? So what's exciting and what's happening is that our teachers, they know this. This is their educators, and they know that what they need to do is incorporate all of those sometimes into your reading, but you're also maybe perhaps reading on science materials, your math, and all those subjects and things are intertwined and making sure that everything is enhancing everything. Because if you don't have that base literacy, you do see significant issues later on, especially, and your graduation rates can decrease as well. So it is important. I'm not an educator, but it is important that those folks are doing what they can to make sure that they're touching on those core subjects, but they're also bringing the technology part into that, which can help just only enhance the experience, so to speak. Is that? Did I? If I didn't, I was
touched upon. You gave me an
touched.
answer. Thank you.
Okay. I'm struggling somewhere.
With no more questions, I'd call for some applause for our amazing speakers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
My
Really
pleasure.
appreciate the opportunity.
For members, I'm going to make a couple brief announcements. Immediately following this meeting, we're going to have a board meeting. So if you like to see grown men cry, hang around. Next week, we'll have, again, Secretary of State Kate Brown. She'll be presenting. And we also have in the future some additional statewide electeds presenting. With that being said, I'd like to conclude another successful forum, and thank you for being here.